Hello, welcome to the latest Pennington Choices podcast. You've got the dream team today.
I don't know.
Yeah, the dream team, absolutely.
Short
we want
straw.
to introduce ourselves. Not
Yeah.
short straw.
Short
Yeah.
straw.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm Latrice Thomas. I'm Head of Knowledge and Insight.
I'm John Brown. I'm Head of Consultancy.
I'm Stuart Kerr and I'm a Principal Consultant.
And Sarah Davis, Professional Services Director here at Pennington's. And we thought it would be a really good idea to sort of end the year with a bit of a roundup. We've got some questions that we prepared earlier.
Fun questions.
Fun questions.
We've been told the fun questions.
Yeah. But yeah, I suppose let's kick off with just, the purpose of today really was to round up the year. Lots has happened, both in Pennington's but in the wider sector. Over to you, I guess, Jordan, you're looking at me intently.
Sorry.
How's it
Just
been for
listening.
you?
It's been a I say challenging year, but I think every year is challenging at the moment. It's not like, I don't think we've had an easy year for a long time, but there's been a lot of change and a lot of probably a lot of realisation by organisations that they're probably not where they want to be. I think obviously we'll talk as we go through today about the changes that have come in, but I think it's been a challenging year for clients, which has meant they've kind of leaned on people like us to help them out a little bit. But it's been a really interesting and a really kind of I think a turning point in some respects over the past few years of kind of legislation building up and generating through kind of fire safety regulations, building safety acts and stuff like that. Awaab's laws coming now, and I think as a sector, this was probably the turning year, and actually our direction of travel and how we deliver things is going to change tremendously moving forward after this year.
Yeah. How about you, Latrice?
I think for me, what I've seen with clients is there's probably a little bit of fatigue because they've just had year after year of the new things coming in, new things to adapt to, things that they know are coming down the line, but they don't actually know when it's going to land, and then it's a scramble. We're like, right, okay, this is coming on board and we need to do something about it. So I think making sure and just helping them through that journey it's been quite rewarding for me, but equally I've seen just how stressful it can be to navigate all of that coming in at once. I don't think we've had such an influx of legislation and changes as we've had over the past 5 years or so.
And all that legislation, all that change is on the back of problems that, need solving, aren't they? So, for these organisations, it really is coming at them from every angle, isn't it?
I think that's a really interesting one as well. And I think just going to looking at how clients have been this year, I think the ones that have done particularly well are the ones that haven't seen them as individual problems.
Yes.
They've seen them as a collective problem to solve and actually tried to work them as a stuff coming down the line, what we do know, what we can do about it, and have kind of been a bit kind of positive, preemptive, and kind of delivered some of this stuff. The ones that have kind of gone, let's wait until it lands and see what happens, are the ones that have struggled or tried to deal with them in silo, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
what about you, Stu?
absolutely, and just echoing both what John and Latrice said, particularly being so close to building safety, seeing the actual implementation of a lot of things, particularly around the BACS process and the gateway process, and the problems that has caused for organisations, trying to understand the complexities, what it is. There's so much that organisations have stood still and waited to see what everyone else is doing. And that's been a big problem for them, because now that they've found out what it is, they're also getting called up. And the gateway processes as well is causing so much issue, because it's no longer a simple building control application to carry out a little bit of work on an HRB. It's now a very, very complex, very rigid approach that needs to be taken, and organisations are just not geared up for it. And they've probably not taken as much understanding going forward of what that looks like to actually implement the processes that need to be put into place. So echoing the amount of legislation that's fallen and is still coming down the line. We've got residential PEEPs coming up for building safety again, which comes in on 6th of April next year. And organisations are like, what does this mean? What does this look like?
One of the challenges I've seen is at governance level, at board level, in local authority cabinets, for example, is what level of information do we need to see, because it's broader now than just the big six. So what should we be seeing? How much detail should we be seeing? How can we affect good governance over all of these new areas that we haven't had before? And that has definitely been a challenge in terms of what reporting they see and how can they get assurance that they're seeing what they need to.
I think an interesting point in that one as well, one of the things I've seen change particularly this year, is the old kind of adage of people kind of doing policies and strategies and putting them together and sitting them on a shelf somewhere and just leaving them. you couldn't do that back then, but you really can't do that now. You've not got that joined up approach across them with a real clear direction, clear decision making in that as well. You are just going to fall behind, and you're going to be in a scenario where you're going to keep falling over yourself, trying to get things fixed, sorted, changed.
You mentioned local authorities there, and we've obviously got the impact now of the regulator of social housing. You know, for the first time really this in a long time, the spotlight is on local authorities. How has that impacted, and have we seen organisations that we've worked with, are they ready for it? Have we seen some come unstuck? What are the good clients doing?
I think I think they're now getting their regulatory judgments, C3, C4s, particularly for those local authorities, and we're seeing a very big upsurge in data and the needs for having good data. We're doing lots of work with clients around their data and their management of data and how they process data as well. And we're finding that is getting a lot of organisations to become unstuck because they're not managing it effectively, and it is causing problems, because if you don't have that foundation of good data, knowing what assets you've got, what programmes they need to be on, it means that fundamentally you're going to struggle thereafter to do anything. Your programmes won't be accurate, your reporting won't actually necessarily say what it needs to say, and from there on you're always on the back foot. So when you get audited against these things, you actually find you've got holes everywhere because your data's not right in the first place.
No, absolutely. I think the other issue with local authorities is that they don't just deal with housing. So your traditional registered provider has just got to deal with social housing. Your local authorities have got everything else that they need to deal with. You know, they've got education, they've got your cemeteries, your public buildings, social services. They've got the whole raft, and housing is just a small subsection. So they've not been geared up to do.
And it's quite stark, isn't it? The resource that's allocated across a typical registered housing provider, housing association, and a local authority housing department. It's quite stark, isn't it? The difference.
I think the other thing you find with it though is you're absolutely right from a resource point of view, but I think one of the things that providers find challenging, or local authorities in particular find challenging, is the silo working. There's and again, don't want to generalise all of them, they're not all like this as well, but kind of the traditional kind of format and setup of local authorities and that as well kind of lends itself to that silo working a little bit, and I think organisations have struggled, local authorities in particular, even when they've been kind of the regulator's been in to look at them, is understanding where things are and how things flow between teams as well. So a few challenges kind of.
Any learning, I guess, because that's what we're really interested in, isn't it? So it's easy to sort of sit here and think, gosh, there's so many problems, there's so much wrong. But actually, there's some really good organisations out there. And there are some organisations that we've worked with who have been in a really bad place, but have actually found their place and kind of work their way through it. What are the key?
I think it's going back to what you said earlier. It's about engaging at the earliest opportunity. So seeing what's coming down the line, making sure that processes are going to be looked at to see, well, how does this work for us? Because lots of organisations come to us and say, what do we need to do? And we're like, well, we can give you some hints and tips and we can give you some general direction, but this has to work for you as an organisation. We can't necessarily tell you what to do because it could create a whole industry that doesn't work. This has to work for you. You have to comply and meet what the regulations state, but how you go about that is to be determined by yourselves, because large organisations with tons of resource can do it one way, smaller organisations can do it just as effectively, but maybe not quite have the resource and have to do it in a slightly nuanced way for them.
There are frameworks, aren't there, but ultimately you have to self-evaluate, don't you, and understand.
I think honest is a big one. Accepting, recognising that you have a problem. It sounds silly, but there's a lot of organisations that kind of just need to take that step back a little bit, recognise there's flaws, challenges, problems with either their structure, their systems, their process, whatever it might be, and taking that first step. We've been slightly off note, but with my kids, we've been teaching them about eat the frog, my wife calls it, or eat the elephant, I've heard as well, kind of thing. You can only take it one bite at a time. I think you need to kind of take those steps, and I think as a sector generally, we've always been looking for the silver bullet. The silver bullet that fixes it. I think the realisation and recognition probably this year now is there isn't a silver bullet. Anyone listening and watching this, there isn't a silver bullet for all of this stuff. It's about getting it right and learning when you get it wrong and putting it right. You will get it wrong, that's fine. Learn from it, accept it, put it right and move on from it.
Completely agree with Stu and Jordan there, and I would just add the other key thing for me is safety culture. So without having that framework around this is how we value our residents, this is how we value our buildings, we aren't just doing a tick box exercise to meet the legislation. Without that, you don't have a framework to deliver compliance effectively or to meet your obligations, because you're always just thinking, okay, how do we just tick that box?
Absolutely.
And that's not the point. So for me, that's probably one of the biggest challenges in all organisations that we come across.
I think I find with Awaab's law a fair bit recently, which is organisations trying to hit that KPI number, trying to hit those time frames within Awaab's law, trying to make sure that kind of they are presented as looking good. And actually some of the really good organisations that are doing this really well are actually not hitting 100%, but they know where those gaps are, where those issues are. They're not leaving customers forever and a day. They're fixing things, they're doing things in the spirit of what Awaab's law is there to be done, and then they're making tweaks and change off the back of that. So absolutely.
So take a step back, it doesn't matter, it's not about building safety, it's not about compliance, it's not about your assets, it's about leadership, it's about culture, it's about the way in which people behave, first and foremost, to tackle a problem. It's about being open and transparent, isn't it? And if you've got that as your foundation, then you can do anything, can't you? It doesn't matter what's presented in front of you. But without that, you know, you're not going to get very far.
And they're the foundations of any successful organisation.
Absolutely,
So why wouldn't this get any different?
Yeah. Should we dip into our ball?
Fun question.
Dip into our ball of fun questions.
Who wants to go first?
Everyone looked at me.
Right,
Go,
okay.
Yeah, and I will read who's this for. Let's see. Okay, so what's the best question a client, trainee or colleague asked you in 2025?
I think I can answer this. So this was a bit outside of work actually. So I did some volunteering where I, on behalf of Pennington Choices, to go and speak to some year 9 children at a secondary school in Bury, and go through my career path and everything like that. And one of the things I put up there was saying I'm quite a foodie. I quite like making food. And one of the questions that was actually asked of me was, "What microwave do I own?" To which I said, "I don't know." And he said, "How do you not know what microwave you're on?" I said, "Well, I barely use it, so I don't really know what it is." And these kids couldn't get over the fact that I don't just get Rustler's burgers from the petrol station and throw them in and have them for tea as like a gourmet meal. So other brands are available clearly, well not the BBC, but other brands are available. I don't know what they are because I don't eat them. So what microwave do I own was probably the most unusual question I've had this year.
Have you got an air fryer?
I do have an air fryer.
Yeah, so that's not in the same category as a microwave.
No, air fryers, they always seem as like the new posh niche thing, haven't they? But,
Is it a Ninja?
It is a Ninja. It is a Ninja. And I go camping and I've got an air fryer for that as well. So we go glamping. It's like posh camping.
Guys, anything? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I do a lot of training. I don't get. I get the boring training. I do all the HHSRS stuff, don't I? And disrepair and damp and mould. So I don't tend to get fun questions kind of in those areas.
I know one of our colleagues who was delivering training, Jack, and he had one of the people attending and actually said, "Look, you have to tell me black and white what do I need to do?" And unfortunately, the legislation doesn't provide that in that way. It's not black and white. And Jack was trying to explain that to this person on the training session, and unfortunately, they were not understanding that legislation is nuanced in the fact that you need to be able to take it and apply it to your organisation to comply. But she was adamant. She was like, "No, you need to tell me exactly what it is that I need to do."
You're saying her, if I'm honest with you, that's quite, get that from some organisations sometimes. Well, so not so much a training question, but there is, I suppose, a misunderstanding sometimes. Awaab's law is a really good one, but HHRS is really good for this one as well, which is kind of like, give me that black and white answer. Yeah. And sometimes there isn't that, there isn't that black and white answer. The guidance is there about making sure you kind of make the right decision based upon the scenario that's there. But I do remember that one, because I threw Jack a little bit, didn't it?
It did.
But then for me, is that not, I would say it's about the organisation, it's about the interpretation of that legislation. That's where your policy principles come. Yeah. And actually, if I was that individual in the organisation, the first place I would want to go is my policy on whatever that is, and what does that tell me?
So about training then, on that exact note, so not a question to me, but I did deliver a training course to an organisational specific one, and I got talking about policy and stuff like that, and About 4 people in the room were adamant they didn't have one, and then their manager put the hand up and went, I wrote it, you have got one.
That's awkward.
So the fact, again, so it's great having that document, and you have the best document in the world, but people need to know what it is and understand it and what decisions have been made, etc. as well.
Yeah, it needs to live and breathe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Should we dip in for another question? Who wants to
I'll
go?
We'll go round. We'll go in a little
that
circle
way.
there. You go on.
Okay. If you had to explain how legislation has changed the housing sector in 2025 using only 3 words, what would you choose? I'll start with Latrice.
Oh.
3 words.
Oh gosh. Can you come back to me?
Absolutely.
Legislation changed it. Accountability is probably the first one that I'd use. I think everything that we're seeing change at the moment is making providers more accountable to what they do. Even things like Awaab's law, we've had this thing for years around kind of reasonable timeframes. We've not done what we needed to do, so we've been told what them timeframes are now going to be. So I think accountable, challenging, and scary. I want to say scary. Probably not the most professional word in the world, but I think it has scared organisations, it's scared individuals as part of the kind of the number of changes that have come through, and the shift, the mindset shift, cultural shift as well for organisations to be able to adhere to these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 3 words I would use was onus. There's an awful lot of onus now on organisations. They've got to provide a wider breadth of service to organisations, not necessarily things they've never provided before, but certainly there's got to be that breadth of service provided to residents. Obligatory.
Yeah.
They've got to comply to whatever the regulations, legislation say, or they could be in breach. And complex. All the things coming down the line are very, very complex. They need to make, organisations need to make sure they understand what it is that the expectations that are being put upon them, so that they can meet them. Or, as we always try and say, how can you surpass these? It's all right meeting the minimum benchmarks. That's what you have to do. But what can you do to make it better? Because all round that will improve the service for the resident at the end of the day, also makes you more assured that you are meeting your requirements as part of the legislation or whatever it might be. And at the end of the day, will probably make life simpler as well, because you will have a better service, and that entails reduced complaints, reduced disrepair, reduced Awaab's, damp and mould, and more robust building safety, and so on and so on. So all these things, it's not about meeting what is it and how can we just do the minimum to comply. What can we do to make this better?
I would probably say people, because ultimately we forget about that, don't we? You mentioned residents there, but often we talk about assets, we don't even talk about homes, so that's my second word. This is homes, these are people's homes, aren't they?
Yeah.
And all this legislation is really designed to keep people safe, isn't it? So, if you just take all the complexity away and think of those 3 things, this is about people's homes and keeping them safe, then, if you allow that to guide any decisions, you probably can't go far wrong as a starter for 10, at least, when it's feeling scary.
When it's feeling scary,
We're back to me.
We took all your words now.
To be fair, I agree with absolutely everything you said, and as I was thinking, I was like, I would have said that, but I think probably just one final word for me would be minimum. So the legislation's there, it's set to provide a basis, obviously to keep residents, as you've mentioned, safe, but actually it's set there that could be the minimum requirement. So your organisation might want to go above and beyond to meet good, best practice. Just meeting the legislation sometimes doesn't always mean that you're doing all that you could do. So for me, it is absolutely challenging. We absolutely understand that it is tough for providers, but I think there's a minimum there, and the provider should also think about, okay, is there anything more that we can also do?
Can I pitch one of your words then?
Oh, go on.
Communication.
Yes.
Touching on residents and stuff like that as well. I think, again, as a sector, we've been kind of told and pushed into this a little bit, and we should really be doing this anyway, which is around treating residents as grown-ups and communicating. I'm going to go back to the point I made kind of previous question, which was around kind of, we get it wrong sometimes. We are human. We don't mean to do it, and that is okay. It's going to happen. But it's about making sure that we communicate. We talk to the customer. We accept where we failed. We put it right, etc., etc. as well.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah, your turn.
Which projects push you the most this year?
Ooh.
I've got one. I'll start. I don't know about pushed, but I suppose the one that really got my teeth into and kind of more general and without naming organisational names is the stuff around Awaab's law. For me, that's my world, that's my space a little bit in terms of that and disrepair and repairs and maintenance. And I think the challenges that organisations have faced trying to get this right have been really, really interesting. And seeing the different takes by organisations on how they deliver this has been really interesting as well. So that for me is the one that has pushed me the most in terms of again, organisations haven't gone out and recruited 20 extra staff members to deliver this stuff. So actually, how do we do it in an efficient way? How do we do all this here without making all this over here fall over? And that's where the challenge came in. So I really enjoyed that, working with clients.
And you're doing some amazing stuff now, aren't you, on the other side of that legislation coming in to sort of test and check that organisations are doing what they should and helping them. What learning are you getting from that, or what are we seeing?
I think the learning from that one for me is, I go back to the start again, really good organisations are actually getting it wrong, but admitting they're getting it wrong and fixing it and putting things right. I think one of the things, or two things that organisations are probably not misunderstood, but probably not recognise the challenge that comes along with it is other jobs. I'm really clear. So organisation I'm working with do an immediate response to clean down mould. Part of their response to kind of still do the root cause analysis, but we like to go out and do the mould immediately. And after the first week, they'd hit every single one of those properties. But to allow them to do that, they'd cancelled 40 or 50 jobs of their routine works. And actually the conversation then stemmed to, so what do I do about these? Because I can put these off for a week. But what happens when they don't fall within Awaab's law? How long do we leave them? And the second one is decants. Organisations have kind of really underestimated how many people they may need to move out. And we have to remember that Awaab's law, it's only coming for emergencies and damp and mould. There's another 27 hazards coming in over the next 2 years. That is only going to increase.
Good stuff. Who wants to go next?
I had a particular challenging one where it was a large organisation where we were doing a building safety gap analysis, and it became very, very apparent from the first sessions that we were doing that actually there's a big problem culturally, going back to your culture remark earlier, Latrice, that the organisation had a very distinct, the senior management were up here and everybody else was down here, and there was a huge disconnect to the point where, unfortunately, as the call was going, one of the people on the call started crying because of how hard, obviously very passionate about the work that they were doing, but they felt that they were really struggling in being able to carry out their work because of the relationship between them and the senior management team in the organisation. And this was a big organisation as well, and that they felt that they were being hamstrung by how they weren't being given the right level of resource or the right consideration about some of the things that they were doing. And we've seen where actually things like this can lead to bigger issues. So we've had recently the release of that information where someone was taking a call and actually fabricating evidence. You know, there's a picture that you need to put this poster up, you're not going to get there, just put it up in your house and take a picture. Because of the disconnect, it was a chase.
Pressure coming down
it was a
and it's a very real thing, isn't it?
It's ticking a box again.
It's ticking a box, and again, we talked about people before, and there's people, real people in these organisations that by and large are absolutely trying to do their very, very best, you know, in really difficult circumstances, constantly, you know, got a lot to deal with, increasing pressures.
It comes back to what you said before though, and you said about the KPI, it's not chasing the KPI, it's the customer and making sure they're safe. If we don't tick something over here, but we get it right at this end, that's what's important. That's the bit that we need to understand and recognise. Just shouting at someone for 100% over here ain't going to fix the problem down here.
It's leadership, isn't it?
It is.
You know,
it is.
Ultimately, it's how those organisations are led and the culture. That
and going back to the question it was then a challenge of trying to relay this information back to them, saying, by the way, you may be aware, I don't know, but you have this opinion within the organisation that you are not, that there's a serious disconnect, there's no relationship between you as senior managers for this organisation and people delivering the operational side of things, and it needs to be addressed. So they took that on board.
Did they? I was gonna,
they took that on board, and they said that they will be looking to address those issues and concerns to make it better, because at the end of the day, you can't have people crying coming to work.
Yeah.
That's not what it's for,
Yeah.
is it?
And as leaders, sometimes you need to hear difficult messages.
You do.
Don't get it right. And, you know, actually, if you are being presented with a rosy picture and you don't want to hear it, then, you know, I'd question that you don't know everything that's going on.
It comes back to that though, you employ people to do a job, so listen to the people doing the job.
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of really
Give
simplistic,
them
but
space to-
yeah, sometimes it's not always kind of operational to senior management. Obviously sometimes the managers in the middle get stuck between kind of being shouted at up there and trying to support the teams as well.
Yeah.
If so, again, another kind of message out to people, if you're employing someone to do a job, let them do the job and listen to them when they come back as well.
Always listen. That's the
Always listen,
biggest
yeah.
thing, isn't it? Just listen. You know, what my mum used to say, use these more than you use.
Yeah.
But it's true, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
listen, and 9 times out of 10 people have the solutions to their own problems. And you can, that your job then as a leader is to help them figure their way through it. But yeah. What about you, Latrice?
I think for me, just thinking about the question about sort of being pushed, it was supporting on a due diligence piece for a merger. So 2 organisations, one that we knew really, really well, merging with another, and they'd asked us to support on data validation and compliance. And it was particularly challenging because I think the 2 organisations had quite different approaches in some areas, and it was clear that they needed to do a lot of work behind the scenes to bring them together. But often, as is the case with mergers, there's deadlines, there's times. So it was a challenge trying to navigate the pre-existing deadlines. Sorry.
And then watching the lights gone off.
So someone's put 50p in the meter.
Yes, it was a challenge to sort of navigate the, you know, this is when we want it done by versus actually, no, this is realistic versus when we got to do the project, the number of different issues that had come out that needed addressing, we ended up extending that timeline anyway. So it was a really rewarding sort of project to work on, but it was quite a challenge. And mergers are quite common now, I think, in the sector. So yeah.
And incredibly difficult, isn't it? We see many merged organisations that many years on still operate as, you know,
legacy.
Absolutely. So for those particular organisations, hitting those issues, you know, head on, beginning to work through it sets the tone then for, you know, the future in a positive way, doesn't it?
I think it's interesting though as well because you find those issues when you're coming across a merger as part of this, but you tend to find that organisations aren't aware of some of these issues, these problems, these challenges. So actually sometimes it's a difficult message for kind of, you're doing it on behalf of one organisation, but then you're trying to tell the other organisation they're not very good in certain areas, and that could be a challenging message to balance.
Absolutely, yeah, been there.
Fantastic.
Right,
Do you want to go? No, you. It's after you. Go on.
Okay, let me go. This is a good one. Which 2025 legislation title was the biggest tongue twister?
Latrice? I ran out of breath saying it. So,
I'm not giving that one a go.
So for me, it is fire safety, brackets, residential evacuation plans, close brackets, open brackets, England, close brackets, regulations 2025.
And I love that the person that just guessed you to do that again.
I did not memorise that before I came in.
Well, I've got one.
You've got one.
I wrote mine on the paper because I can't remember it. So,
I can do better.
So Awaab's law, obviously everyone knows it as Awaab's law. It isn't actually called Awaab's law. It's called, and I've got this here, the Hazards in Social Housing, open brackets, prescribed requirements, close brackets, open brackets, England, close bracket, regulations 2025. So I'm getting a bit mad. And I've been doing a lot of this and I still can't memorise this.
So actually pretty impressive there, Stu.
Oh,
Well done.
Yeah,
Well
well
done.
done.
If you've got it wrong in the comments, if anyone's put them in there.
If I did get that wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
we will not speak.
Want to do another one?
Yeah, no.
There's a,
No,
No.
me.
No. Should we go in again? No, have you got another one?
no,
No,
no, no,
no,
no, there's
no.
nothing on the tip of my tongue. I've done it.
Right. Okay, this is a good one. What has been your biggest achievement this year?
I'm going to go with this one. It's working with a client to get their building assessment certificate for their high-rise buildings. We've had 2 clients we've got that for. I've been working in building safety, guys, since about 2018 because I was part of the early adopter program with a previous organisation. So this has been a culmination of all my efforts over those years to finally getting that back for a client. So that was a huge achievement. I even had the client ring me for the second building that we did, a building in Manchester, rung me to give me the good news as soon as they had found out, because it was such an achievement, because the back process has been so difficult. Organisations are now getting where they've got the non-compliance of it and having to put up those statements in their areas, in their communal areas, sorry. So to actually get it back is a huge achievement and a testament to the work that the client put in as well. It's not just all of us, but the all that we were then able to put into a safety case report that actually then the Building Safety Regulator was able to say, yeah, we understand you are managing your building safely. Here's your certificate for that. So it was a great feeling, absolutely great. I was on cloud 9 at that point.
No,
very
it was
happy.
huge achievement.
Absolutely, yeah, and testament to all the work that you've been doing.
Well, all of us as a team, we've been putting together with that, and it's such a smooth process now. And not one organisation has walked away saying we didn't enjoy that, because it brings together everything. Because building safety, as I've said before, to a lot of organisations, it's an umbrella. It brings everything together, absolutely everything, from finance to repairs to compliance to housing. It brings it all together under one umbrella. No other piece of work probably does that for an organisation, because it just doesn't need to be demonstrated in that way. So yeah, to bring it all together and put it into a concise report that someone reads and says, yep, this organisation's on it, they've got it, we can see that these buildings are safe, and the residents, because they're the key, the residents that are living there are being kept safe in their homes. So yeah, great achievement, really, really
And
pleased.
the icing on the cake, because actually the real achievement is the process, the product that you guys have designed as a team that brings that organisation to that point, you know, because that is no mean feat, as you say, to bring all of that together. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Jordan, how about you?
Mine's quite a simple one, so I quite enjoy doing this job, generally, kind of helping organisations and kind of getting them better. But what we don't always find is seeing where they are maybe a year or two afterwards. So actually the piece of work took place last year, but it's actually really interesting to see kind of how it fed through this. So I was working with an organisation around their disrepair process. So I originally came on the training course, we did the disrepair training, and then we did a piece of work after that and kind of did a bit of what we call our health checks kind of thing around their disrepair process and what they're doing. And we give them some recommendations, some pointers, and we work with them on various different things to help them get better at it. And internally, when we walked away, it seemed to be better for the staff members, and everyone kind of seemed much more bought into the process and kind of safeguards, etc. We came back into them this year to do a little bit of work, more around Awaab's law, but we started to strain to kind of what happens if we get this wrong and where does it go. And I don't remember the numbers, so apologies for this, but they'd seen a markedly decrease in the amount of disrepair claims that they've received. A lot of the work that we do with organisations on disrepair isn't actually on the disrepair bit, although we do obviously spend a bit of time on that. It's about making sure we don't get disrepairs. So how do I fix the front end to stop them coming kind of at the end? And actually what they'd seen was kind of, I don't know, I think, I can't remember what she said to me in terms of numbers, but they'd at least halved in number in 12 months because of the changes and things that they've implemented as part of that. So for me, that was a bigger achievement, not just because of what we did, but because it was an organisation that recognised they had challenges and problems. And I go back to that honesty thing from kind of earlier on today, which was around they accepted it, fixed it, and put it right. They didn't get it right first time round. They worked with us, they worked with themselves, put things right, and they got much better right. So it's great to see.
That impact, that reward. I mean, actually, that's what makes this job so great,
Yes,
isn't
it does,
that you are more than consultants. You know, you truly are those trusted partners, and you are invested in those organisations.
Absolutely.
We are invested in those organisations, aren't we? That's what
We have
makes
to be.
it.
We have to help them. We
Absolutely
have to be.
Yeah. And we work with really good people that. So yeah, again, that's testament to the whole
and
team.
it's rare that we come across an organisation that isn't willing to make those changes. But what generally we find is that they don't know the changes to make because they're often siloed in the way that they're working. They can't see that bigger picture side of things sometimes, and it's having a third party like us coming in to help them with that, with all the best practices that we see across so many organisations, just like this, has supported them, getting them to change the process and make it better.
It's resources as well. When you're doing the day in, day out stuff, and you talk about your merger before, when you're doing the day in, day out stuff, to be able to take yourself out of that and go, what do I need to look at here, becomes challenging.
Become an extension of the team. How about you, Latrice?
I think similar to Jordan, quite a simple one, but it's seeing the recommendations that I've made in a report coming to life. So I work with a particular local authority who were not in the best of places initially when we first started working with them, made some recommendations, and to actually physically see the transformation over periods of time over the last year, honestly, it's brilliant. And you almost feel part of that organisation because you're with them along that journey. You can see the changes they've made. And it's validation to know actually, yeah, what I've suggested has made a difference, and they can see that difference, and they're also very receptive of it. So yeah, that would be the one for me.
I think one of the other things, and again, kind of more general achievement for us is when we get work for other organisations because somebody's moved, or because word of mouth and kind of stuff like that as well. So we get kind of a lot of obviously we know it's internal, but a lot of the work that we get is through word of mouth and talking to each other and recommendations and that, and actually seeing that work come in because somebody said we've done something fantastic. And I think we take it for granted sometimes because that's how much, but actually it's a massive achievement kind of in terms of what we do for people.
Well, the work speaks for itself, doesn't it? The quality, and I think that's always been a guiding principle, hasn't it? Do the right thing, you know. And
exactly.
It will come. So for me, just seeing the kind of the way in which the team has grown and the organisation is, you know, for everybody there's a collective achievement there. Now working with our friends at Mears as part of a big group, you know, it's really exciting to think about what the future holds, and being able to do more of this is really exciting. So do you want to go next, Jim?
Yeah, certainly will. Okay, so which piece of advice did you find yourself giving over and over again in 2025? So I'll come to you first, Jordan.
I banged against a brick wall on a few things. I think the biggest one for me is, again, I have to talk about Awaab's law and the fundamentals of what Awaab's law is there to do for organisations. Too many organisations got really, really hung up on the KPI. I need to get 100%, I need to get there. And we have to kind of get to that. I'm not saying we shouldn't be striving for it. But the context of Awaab's law is that prior to this, we had reasonable timeframes we had to kind of achieve, and we weren't achieving those things. Awaab's law is there, he's trying to tell us what reasonable is, and certain jobs, a percentage of them will not fit into Awaab's law, and the guidance allows you to be able to kind of, as long as you can evidence what you've done. So working with organisations and trying to get their mindset again to a place that says, you might not get 100% jobs in here, and if you are, you're probably doing something wrong, because actually you're probably doing light work, light touches, rather than root cause analysis for things. What we need to be doing is understanding what these are, doing as many jobs as we can within those time frames, but where they are taking a little bit longer, making sure we understand why, what's going on, what's our investigation process, how do we evidence it, etc. So it's that bit I think I spent a lot of time recently in particular talking to organisations around this kind of understanding that you don't have to be perfect on day one. We want to be, we absolutely want to, and we want to get there, but get it right. Make sure the customers are not left, make sure we're doing time frames, and that's what it's about, is making sure we're not leaving customers in unsafe situations.
Absolutely. I think for me it's this comes out of a lot of training as well, because we give a lot of training. We say these are your options, these are how things can go, and we also do it in gap analysis and safety case reports. It's saying to organisations, look, these are the things you need to do to comply, and it goes back to a point I said before, but it has to work for you as an organisation. That's the best bit of advice that I can give for anyone, to take what we provide away, look at it and think, well, how can we do this for ourselves? We know what we've got to do to comply, we've got to do X, but how are we going to do that through Y? We can't necessarily do it like a big organisation because they have lots of resource and we've got very small, or it needs to sit somewhere within a particular team, or we need to look at actually, well, we know that we could do this across a couple of different functions. How are we going to get these two to work together to make this actually so that not only we're compliant, but again, what are we doing to actually go past that benchmark minimal requirement? What are we going to do to provide a better service to our residents, and and create that better assurance for ourselves as an organisation? So my advice that I always give over and over again is whatever you take away from this, it has to work for you as an organisation. It can't be something that you mimic from another, do it in silo, and it creates a whole industry for somebody, because that's not going to work in the long term. It has to be right for you.
Yeah, very good. Latrice?
I think mine will be a question that I've asked well, more than several times in the past year, and it's, are you assured? So I've sat in board meetings, I've been in information gathering sessions where we're finding out information about clients, and I've heard what they've described, I've heard the process, I've reviewed a document, I've looked at the reports, and I've said, are you assured by this information? Because I'm not. And it's just that question that kind of challenges them to go, well, actually, have we included the right information? Does this feel like we are doing the right thing? And just that question, really simply, it helps put a bit of perspective into, you know, what actually are we seeking from this information? Is this just information for information's sake? Have we just thrown everything at it? Or is it meaningful? Is it evidence-based? Is it backed by data? So I think that for me, I've said that quite a few times over the past year to a lot of clients.
And that's super powerful, isn't it? I know, again, doing lots of board training where the ultimate purpose is to enable those individuals to gain assurance. How do you do that? What does it look like? Do you understand? And keep it simple. Start to unpick it. Ask questions. You know, there are no stupid questions. You know, that's sort of always been my mantra. Fabulous. I think we're done.
I'm going to say,
That's brilliant.
If you've got this far listening to this, thank you.
Well done.
That was real. I enjoyed that. That was
great.
really good, wasn't there? There's so much there, and we could carry on probably for many more hours. But I think it's sensible to draw a line. Draw it to an end.
2025 done. 2026.
Onwards and upwards.
I think an interesting one, I suppose, if people are listening to this, is obviously we do our webinars and our podcasts kind of all through the year and that as well. So if there's anything anyone wants to talk about, or anything that's coming up, or anything that might be kind of challenging, or what's to focus on, then we're always open to ideas.
In 2026, I think we should bring some of our clients on and
stop seeing our faces, you mean?
Not at all. Fantastic. Fabulous. Thank you. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you in 2026.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Bye. Yay.
Thank you for joining us today. If you would like to speak to one of our in-house experts, please get in touch either via our website or across our social media pages. Pennington Choices, providing property surveying, consultancy and project management services to organisations nationwide. Our expertise, your solution.